Hi, welcome. On this video, which again is an application of method video, I'm going to be continuing on with the theme of add-ons, which relates to another video I did on the integrity of the script. So this relates to actual integrity of the method through a couple add-ons that I want to mention here as you begin to develop your skill set. And again, one of the add-ons is actually a method I call it the kinetic method, which counters a high level of challenge according to how a dog will go into a level of challenge, okay, through the basic method. And some dogs, so there's not a great percentage of dogs, but there's some dogs that already are holding an incredible amount of control. They will launch into a higher level of challenge. They'll try to really, try to kind of almost like bully their way to invest. So, for example, when you go into the kind of what I call the turnaround technique, and this turnaround technique is a technique for helping to counter, okay, a dog's ability to invest. So the goal with dogs is to try to, lock in or fixate on, say, another dog, because again, it's about them, their mind starting to reach out, starting to, even through looking, it gives them a sense of fulfillment based on the level of control they already have. So the picture starts to come together that way, and it presents a problem. So one of the ways to begin to counter that is getting the person to turn completely in the opposite direction. Now, when you do that, it's not out of weakness, okay? It's just a way to be able to see the picture properly. So what it does is, again, it allows to kind of expose the cards on the table, because as you turn around, the dog has to try to turn around and turn their head and move the other way to try to, maintain that level of investment. But what that helps to do is allows you to see how you're fading out of the picture. So by doing that, it kind of gives you a better idea of how the method works, because as the dog's turning around, you're actually being devalued. The dog's fading out relationally, fading you out, trying to kind of, move beyond you, okay, so as they're trying to turn around. Now when that happens, this is where all you're focused on is engaging, okay, in the method, interrupting that state, okay, through, you'll be flexing the leash. However, now this is where the kinetic method comes online, where the dog is really starting to try to bully their way around you, and even if you're trying to reach down and move their body, this is where you want to actually focus on their state of mind. You actually want to, move. We have to escalate the method. Now let's talk about escalating the method. It's not about working beyond what's reasonable, okay? It's about using a different technique, okay, to counter that state of mind. So we're going to kind of meet them where they're at, okay, with this technique. What the technique represents, and again, I'm going to grab a leash here quickly. Just bear with me for a second. So here I have the leash, and so what the technique represents is as they're trying to really bully their way to invest, what you're doing through the method is you're directly, influence is taking hold, okay? It's actually a type of kind of push and pull, except you're not pushing, you're pulling, okay? You're actually just working the leash. So the dog is, say the leash is on the dog, and the influence is just starting to really target and pinpoint and come around through the dog's collar. Okay, again, when you're doing this, the dog's wearing a flat collar. Okay, so when I talk about using flat collars, it's about keeping the level of influence aligned, okay, within the parameters of what's reasonable. Okay, it sets up change more effectively, and so it's not going to escalate, okay, which means it's not going to be too much influence, okay, because here's the thing, it's like as the level of influence begins to peak through this method, it counters what's happening, it meets the dog's state of mind, it overcomes it, it kind of not just meets it, it exceeds it, and what it does is it buckles the dog's state of mind. The dog will be a buckling, okay, as this kinetic method takes hold. Now how the method works is you're actually moving the leash, you're angling it. Okay, so as the dog is really trying to turn around and trying to really resist, you're going to increase the level of influence, okay, through the leash, using the leash. Really start to assert. The leash is going to get very, very, you know, tight. It's like an elastic band stretching, but you're not, you know, snapping it. You're not flexing it. Okay, you're not trying to interrupt that way. You're just increasing it. Now, how this technique works is it works on its kinetic. So when the dog is trying to increase the state of mind, it's really, the dog's trying to get his head turned around. It actually works. It allows this technique to work. Okay, it works to the advantage of this method, because you're using that force, that challenge that the dog is generating, allows you to work that technique through, okay? Because it's kind of like the martial art of Aikido. You're actually using the dog's own force against them, okay? So it allows you to engage kinetically with this method. Now as the dog's trying to turn around, you're just asserting, so it's increasing. It's very uncomfortable for the dog. The level of influence is increasing. It's coming through the collar. It's very specific, but type of angle, it's got to be kind of at a really, at an angle that's going to really affect the dog's state of mind, okay? So as the dog's trying to turn its head around, you're increasing, and it escalates, and then it buckles the mind, okay? So it's a kinetic method. Now, by doing that method, okay, it gets to a level where after you do it for a bit, okay, just has to take, usually it doesn't take a lot of times to do this. The dog will stop, okay, the dog will come into agreement, okay, with the process. They'll start, the level of challenge will start to really diminish, because what you're doing is you're meeting that state of mind, okay? Otherwise, a dog is able to overcome you by bullying their body around and really investing, and so they're gaining something through that. This technique doesn't counter that, doesn't let the dog to gain through it, okay? It buckles their state of mind. It meets it, not just meets it, but exceeds it. It peaks up. So as they're peaking, this technique peaks until it buckles, but it has to, again, increase. It's got to just got to keep it going up as a dog. So you have to be really in tune with the dog's state of mind. You have to, you know, it's kind of like I described, like a jet fighter going up in the air, and your nose got to be going up ahead of it, and then what happens is the other jet just kind of falls away. Okay, but you've got to increase that technique up. And so the dog's state of mind falls away, it buckles. Okay, so something to really, you see in some of my videos, me using that technique. You know, but again, it's on a small percentage of dogs. It's really kind of like it's in a class of its own for dogs that are holding a lot of control. And then you're dealing with dogs that have a lot of challenge going on. You know, and so it meets that. Okay, it's done in a way, it's a smart technique. And it's done so you have a positive outcome. Typically, you're not going to have the dog try to bite you in like that. Okay, dog is going to help move through that state of mind. Now, the other technique too to mention is a type of add-on. You can look at this like a part of your app on your iPhone. Add-ons. These are add-ons on the script. But another technique too is works through going from the down position to the sit position. Okay. Now again, I mentioned on my other video, but really working a lot of extra downs into the script as you're developing through especially certain exercises, certain interactions, say working with other dogs. You really want to work the down position really well. Once the dog's into a down, you want to do a push-pull, okay, on top of that, when the dog's into a down. Then going from the down position, now this is where the technique comes on, because this is issue of who's in control. It's very interesting when you do this, is when the dog's coming up into from a down to a sit, and how you were doing it, not saying sit, you're just asserting some influence enough so it takes hold, the dog responds to that, starts to come up. But what you're doing is as the dog's starting to come up, you're actually re-engaging with your hand on top of the dog's shoulder blade area to slow the dog down. Okay, so you're actually, as the dog's coming up, you're just not halting the dog altogether, at least not at first. You're just starting to slow the dog down a little bit to assert control, influence and control, to help to expose, again, more of the control issues and the motives of the dog, okay? And what you'll see with dogs that, this is interesting, dogs that have a huge amount of control going on, some dogs will not like that at all. Even though it's what's reasonable, they'll really challenge at a high level, and that's why it's needed, because what this technique does, again, just like the down position, it fills in some more gaps, okay? It helps to cover off, Okay, it adds to your methodology, adds to your script. It's very helpful because it's more consistent, it shades in. Okay, so again, just by doing that a little bit at first, and then again you want to increase it. So after you do that for a bit, and then you actually will stop the dog midpoint, and then back into a down just from, it's like doing a half a rep, like a bench press, right? You're just kind of shortening it. And so same thing, is the dog comes up halfway and just right back down. But again, always be aware you're doing it. It's about assessing. You want to start off just slow at first, because if a dog has a lot of challenge going on, you don't want to, even though it's what's reasonable perhaps, okay, in context of the method, you still may not want a very unreasonable reaction because it could cause major problems. So again, even when I talk about there's variances in the method, and you can go the other way, there are variances, which means that at first, if you're dealing with a dog that has a tremendous amount of control going on and into an aggressive level, you'll actually might actually skip some steps, okay, including with the push-pull method. Okay, you're just going to work the leash more, tap, tap, put the dog to a sit, but you may skip the push-pull because push-pull may be way too challenging based on the level of control that dog has. Okay, so you may actually skip the push-pull. And again, the other kind of wild card with this is the personality type of the person. So for example, if I'm doing training a dog on a board and train, based on how I think, okay, I'm definitely going to skip this step, okay? Because again, the dog is going to really challenge me based on how I think, certain set points. So I have to be more intentional with kind of defining the method, how I tighten it, how I bring it together. I kind of will do it in a way to really allow for, so the dog isn't going to go into high challenge on me. Okay, I'm kind of manipulating these control issues. And so I'll skip a step and I'll bring that online after a couple of days. Once I know I've created some relational change, level of challenge has gone down, then I begin to, again, close in the gaps. Okay, so there's ways kind of to vary this depending on the person, depending on the level of control the dog has in the relationship. Okay, these add-ons, you want definitely get to the point of adding them all on, but you have to kind of work it, you know, as you're working through it, to look at where you're at in the relationship. For somebody that really needs to gain a lot of control, the dog has control over them already, you know, these add-ons are important. You want to add these on pretty quickly, okay, to get these going on. So anyway, just something to think about. Again, this is about script add-ons, the kinetic method. Great technique. It really does counter that level of challenge. It meets it where it's at, and what it does, it buckles the dog's mind, and then you just move through that state and continue the method. And with doing the down, slowing the dog coming from a sit up into a sit position a little bit, again, it helps put more cards on the table, increase the level of you know, influence happening with advancing the relationship changing process, okay, with cleaning up the motives of the dog, okay, and again, just little thing here about variances, which I'll get into on another video. So here, sometimes what I do is I might touch on some things because everything is connected, and then on my other videos, I'll go more in depth into a specific thing. So if I mention some stuff on the video, I don't go into it too deep. That's because I'm going to be doing it on another video. So just kind of look at the videos. I'll be going into certain things that are important and really focusing in on them. So anyway, thanks for watching.